Come through, Gianni. Come through.
Hey,
We
Gianni,
got
you
a
want
girl
to talk
back.
about this gun rights bill we've got going? Is this truth, lies, or shenanigans?
This is the truth. Okay, so House of Homeland Security Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has proposed a bill that would require people who want who want to own a gun and fire and sorry, who want to own a firearm and
I get it.
ammunition, they would require licensing. Um, it also has a few other things that you need to qualify. The bill would create a national firearm registry, set a minimum gun ownership age to 21, and it requires, like I said, the licensing and a psych evaluation. So anyone who has ever been hospitalized due to mental illness or homicidal or suicidal thoughts, or if you're even related to anybody or not related, but if it's in your household.
Lose Gianni?
Oh no, we did.
Like
Having a
the,
lot of Wi-Fi issues today. I think that's Tom Brady, pissed at us because we don't want him to win this Super Bowl
Oh,
today.
the
let's,
Super Bowl is taking over all the bandwidth.
and and the weekend. I mean, the weekend he's important. Weekend. I'm
He
serious. I
ain't no
can't.
Tom Brady. He ain't no Tom Brady, and I don't even like Tom Brady.
Who cares about Tom Brady anyway? All right, I'll tell you what. We will come back to. I'm sure Gianni Storm will join us back in 1 second. So let's come back to her. So let's try to finish up, Gianni. Let's get back to your hot topic again. Let's see if we can
I
breeze
think
through it.
Gianni posed a question to the panel. I think Gianni needed to pose her question to the
Yep.
panel.
All right.
Yep, my question.
All
Sorry.
right. Asked about a minute ago.
My question in regard to the new proposed bill was: do you believe that this bill is an effective tool in controlling gun violence if it goes through?
Let's start with Robbie Rock.
I read the story and I was enjoying it very much so because you know how I feel about gun control in the U.S. It's just it's
How
been
we
run
got
by
you
the
involved in
lobby,
the show?
Yeah.
right?
That was your
It's
first question.
absolutely. So I'm all for what many of the proposals that she is putting forward, just as far as restrictions on the type of ammunition, age restrictions on the licensing of these weapons, psych evaluations, criminal record checks. What? Oh my God. Okay, so people who've been hospitalized due to mental illness, drug or alcohol abuse, homicidal or suicidal thoughts. Great. These are people who shouldn't hold firearms. And I really hope that this legislation goes through. The psych eval is going to be a tough one, but I mean, even if a tenth of what she's proposing gets pushed forward, gets adopted into law, it's a step in the right
It'll be better.
direction because, oh, yeah, your entire country needs federal regulations as far as your gun control is concerned. Doing it state by state is a broken policy. The good news is the King of England isn't coming to depose your leaders. You don't need to fight against tyranny from the outside. Now use the legal system to fight tyranny on the inside. They're
Yeah.
very outdated ideas for holding on to these firearms, and especially like who needs 50 cal rounds? Military and law enforcement at best. And if you
Yeah.
demilitarize the criminal element, good news, your police force doesn't need 50 cal rounds anymore. Just your military to take care of external threats. It's yeah, I'm all for it, Johnny. I really hope that some of the reform that she's proposing will get pushed through.
What questions did you have about the psych eval? Do you feel like that might be too extensive for individuals to have to go through?
It's I, I guess it would really depend on the implementation of it, what the parameters would be, and yeah, I guess it's going to be how the gun retailers are going to be upholding any of the decisions that come about from it.
That's
Oh,
true.
the National Gun Registry is down. Ah, shoots. Well, let's get this through real quick. That kind of shit needs to disappear.
Lizzie, your thought?
So Rob brought up a good point when he talked about the types of weapons that a lot of people have, or people who are um, pro NRA or what have you, or they say that, they fear that we're taking away their rights. And a lot of these are, like he said, militarized weapons, assault rifles, AK-47s, Uzis. And my question is, who are you arming yourself against? Who do you think is coming to get you, that you need all of this weaponry, that you need all of this firepower? And if you look at the laws in this country, I had to fill out more paperwork to get my apartment in New York City, to get my apartment in DC, than anyone ever has to fill out in this country to get a gun. I had to provide all of tax returns, renting history, financial papers and documents. I had to get, people to send in recommendations for me. You don't have to do that to buy a gun. If you are even living in a city or a state that requires a background check, it's a very quick process. Yet I
Mhm.
can't,
Right.
rent an apartment. I can't buy a house, buy a condo without all of this paperwork. Even if you take it a further notch down, think of all of the, stuff you have to fill out to get your driver's license. You have to take a test. Think you have to have insurance. Think of all of the paperwork you have to fill out to get a car. But yet, in many states in this country, you could just walk into a store, or you can get something on the black market. Let's not, look
Mhm.
beyond the black market. But for legal gun ownership, you could just walk into a store, boom, get a gun. And not have, there's no record of you buying that gun. There's no registry. There's no background check, nothing. So yeah, I'm in favor for a lot of this stuff. I'm with Rob B. I think the psychological exam, it has to be implemented in a very sensitive manner. But
Yeah.
at the very least, we need to be keeping track of who is buying these guns and what type of guns they're buying and why.
Yeah,
Agreed.
my thoughts are, I mean, I'm all for it. Um, like you say, we need a license to drive a car. Um, we have to we regulated alcohol, regulated weed. I mean, there are lots of things that, although may be constitutionally okay, or a right, so to
Mm,
speak, that we can still regulate and control. You know, yeah, I still think the Second Amendment can be modified. Nothing wrong with it. Because we're living in a different time where we do have police forces, we do have military. I mean, we can't totally trust our police force. Um, but at the same time, I think we're in a position where, at the very least, we should have it regulated. At the very least, regulated and controlled, minimal.
Yeah. The minimum.
Just because of the sheer number of deaths associated. I mean, people are dying from guns. I mean, yes, it is who has the guns, but if you compare the U.S., to other countries who have stricter gun laws, you know, the deaths are lower from guns. I mean, it's just an obvious solution. All right, so real quick
Mhm.
on these comments, right?
So
So
Von Perry made a good
yeah,
comment. Real quick, Von Perry made a good comment. He says, the GOP wants to make it harder for you to vote than they do to
that
own a
is
gun in
that
this
is a
country.
great point. Yes,
That's crazy.
I mean, obviously, because the GOP doesn't want their voters, they don't want us to go out there and vote. So, the more of us that go vote, the easier it is for us to vote, the more of us will be out there voting. Terry Blaine Priest, there are responsible people that conduct themselves properly, but there will always be the people who do not. Regulations are much needed. Vanessa G, if you have a legitimate reason to have a gun and nothing to hide, then why fight getting a license? Great,
Exactly.
great.
And
Exactly.
Vanessa's husband is a very responsible gun owner. He has been hunting. It's a generational thing. They have 100 acres, a couple of hours outside of the city. And I know Chris to be a very responsible gun owner. And to his chagrin, he inherited his father's guns when his father passed away, who was a lifetime hunter. So, you know, he finds himself in a situation with too many guns. And when it happened, he was like, Rob, what do I do? Well, like, I've got more, I've got way too many. But that said, if you're a responsible gun owner and you are using it for a legitimate purpose, and you are storing your gun ammunition and your weapons responsibly under lock and key separately, and you are properly licensed for it, okay, you're doing the right thing.
All right. That's all the time we have.